questions here for everybody. How many of you have actually been personally affected by global warming? And when I say that, I'm not talking about things we've experienced typically, like we've been in a drought recently. We've had droughts before. Well, it gets hot in the summertime. Okay, it's hot now sometimes, but it's been hot. And there's flooding, but that's happened before. And there's storms and things like that. How many of you have actually been affected in a specific way that's completely outside your experience? That kind of makes you go, oh boy, we got a problem. Anybody? You have?
Well, our persimmon tree starts to have fruit a lot earlier. In August, we had a ripe persimmon,
Interesting.
which used to be in October, November,
All right, okay, that's interesting.
and it's too hot at night to sleep a lot of times.
Yeah, I found most people, when I ask that question, they go, well, not really. And most people, global warming hasn't gotten to the point where it's really, really noticeable to most people, so they think it's kind of, well, it's not that big a deal. We'll let them worry about that in the future sometime. So that's one of the reasons why it's so hard to get people's attention, in my opinion. Now, okay, raise hands and things like that. How many of you feel global warming is an immediate problem? Okay.
Well, we've been
Good.
talking.
Well, I've
we've
got
been
kind
talking.
of a talk preaching to the choir here, so there'll be other people I ask, you don't think it's a big problem now or ever, and they'll raise their hand. But so I'm just trying to gauge where people are. And how many of you got dragged here by somebody against your will? It's like the wife thing, come on, you're going with me, Charles, and I don't care what you think. So I'm anticipating that kind of question. How many of these mantras from the mainstream media sound familiar to you? We can only slow global warming, we can't stop it altogether. We must prepare to adapt to the effects of global warming. We don't yet have the technology to fix global warming.
All of them.
We hear all of them, don't we? All the time. As we will see, all of these implanted notions are false. So we're going to talk about solving the global warming problem. I'm Craig Hubbard, and I wrote a book, Ending Global Warming in Our Lifetime, The World to Come Home To. And it is written for the layperson. Just as a way of background, about my background, I've got a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Cal State, Florida, and I spent most of my working career working for Southern California Edison Electric Power Generation. I was actually part of the staff, the engineering staff that built San Onofre. That's another conversation all by itself. I was a general superintendent for Santa Anita Racetrack for several years. And I was also project manager with McDonald's building restaurants up and down California. That was a lot of fun. Now retired from active duty, and I spend my time writing and speaking on these subjects. But first, a little bit of context. I was a global warming skeptic. I mean, years ago I thought, come on, a 2 degree C temperature rise is only like 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit. That's going to wreck the planet? Seriously? I mean, temperatures will vary 40, 50, 60 degrees in a single day. And we don't, that hasn't wrecked anything. So what's another 3 degrees or so, 4 degrees? So I thought it was a lot of hooey, and I didn't pay any attention to it. Thought it was rabble-rousing and stuff like that. When I retired from engineering, my wife got tired of me hanging around the house. I was driving her crazy, so she said, you gotta get out and do something useful. Well, as it turns out, back in the 80s when I was with Edison, I took a class in solar engineering because I thought it was a great technology that could replace fossil fuels. My concern at the time wasn't anything about global warming, it was the fact that we were gonna run out of fossil fuel at some point. So I thought that might be a viable technology in the future. When I got back, so I Googled solar power, and it was amazing what I learned over the next 2 or 3 years. And it was quite eye-opening because when I was involved back in the day, it was nothing more than really a laboratory adventure. And the way it's been portrayed through the media, even recently, it was, well, it's not something to really take seriously. It's not that big a deal. What I found is it just amazing. It's a fully developed industry that can just, rock if we let it. Okay. Well, you can't get far in the renewable arena without bumping up against this little pesky thing called climate change or global warming. So before I went and started shooting my mouth off, I thought maybe I ought to get some facts and look into this stuff. So I did, and what I discovered was positively terrifying. I mean, absolutely terrifying as far as how immediate and severe and catastrophic this problem can be if we don't get a handle on it. And I was also amazed we can fix it. We have all the technology we need. So that's kind of the background of how I came to me getting so passionate about it, what led me to write my book. So we're going to talk about 4 things today. We're going to talk about the global warming problem itself. We're going to talk about what it takes to actually adapt to global warming, what that will look like, and what it will take to stop global warming altogether. We'll also look at that and what we must do to avert the global warming disaster. So the global warming phenomenon. There are 14 known climate drivers. I call them drivers, physicists call them forcings. I'm an engineer, so that's why I use that word. Most of the things that influence climate have got long periods of time to manifest themselves, such as galactic rotation. It takes 250 million years for the galaxy to rotate once. That's one of the drivers. There's all kinds of things that can influence climate over the longer term. And then there's a group that's too short, you know, cosmic ray activity, solar activity, things like that. Those will influence the climate, but on a very short time frame, weeks, months, a few years. Turns out that there's only just one. I call it the Goldilocks effect. It's the greenhouse effect because it's the only one of all 14 of those that can actually produce the kind of changes we've seen in our climate over the last 200 years. Okay, so the greenhouse effect, certain airborne gases, you probably might be familiar with this. Certain gases in the atmosphere will cause heat to be retained. There's a little diagram here. You're probably familiar with this. Some people may not be. We have incoming. Oops, what did I just do? I turned it off.